Hello YouTube and welcome back to World of Warships with Wadres. And today's video, I'm kind of going to start off a little bit slow, then kind of pick up the pace again. And yeah, as I'm sure you can tell by looking at everything already, I am going to be talking about aircraft carriers, specifically the Hakuryu and the Midway. And a little bit of the consternation that I've had regarding, well, trying to get the hang of the new meta, I guess you could say. Now, anybody who's been watching the forums, the main page, everything, already knows that they have announced the upcoming hotfix patch for 8.0.3, which is supposed to address some changes regarding the Midway and just some overall CV spotting mechanics. And that's going to be something that I touch on quite a bit later. But for starters, one of the big ones to note is that they are going to be nerfing the Midway's torpedo damage, which, I mean, granted, she has the largest strike group of any of the aircraft carriers when it comes to torpedoes at this point in time. However, she kind of relies on her torpedo damage to be able to get any reasonable amount of damage in the first place. I mean, sure, the Hakuryu's torpedoes do decent damage, but they're longer range. You have to really plan your torpedo drops a lot more carefully. As something of a case in point, I've got several of my battle results screens here just to show that my average is really kind of lousy. I mean, I've, on average, even with the switch around of my torpedo squadron loadouts, just had difficulty breaking anything better than 50,000 damage to a match. And this is for a tier 10 aircraft carrier. I mean, yeah, I've had a couple of outliers, like the one here, but even so, all of these matches, just due to various issues, I'm doing really, really lucky if I break even. By comparison, if I'm looking at my Midway matches, I'm averaging 85 to 100,000 damage a match, and while I have had worse matches, it's still just pitiful. By the way, something else that I want to point out as a co-op main is that for whatever reason, the co-op matchmaker has not been properly mirrored for the last, I think, week and a half almost. Now, I'm not talking about the fact that the CVs are being replaced by battleships. I know they're being replaced by battleships because the bots have not been trained to operate or handle aircraft carriers. What I'm talking about is the fact that there are other ships which should have mirrored components on the enemy team in co-op matches that aren't being properly mirrored. As a case in point, the first match that I had the results for, there was an Iowa that was replaced with an Alsace, and the Benson, the only destroyer on the team, was mirrored by an Akizuki. For the second one, we had a Montana, which was replaced by either a Republic or a Grosser Kurfürst. Granted, one of those could have been the substitution for my carrier, but the simple fact remains that there was no Montana on the enemy team. The third match, we had a Conqueror, which was replaced by a Grosser Kurfürst, and a Wichita, which was replaced with a Baltimore. On the fourth one, which is this one here, our Edinburgh was replaced by a Hipper. On this one, we have a Jean Bart, which the only thing that's a tier 9 battleship on the enemy team is a Friedrich de Grosse, and our Baltimore's counterpart was replaced by a Chapayev. And of course, for one more instance, I have this match here. Granted, there was only one incorrect substitution, but we had an Amagi replacing our Tirpitz, when the enemy team should have had a Tirpitz in that tier 8 battleship slot. So I don't know what Wargaming messed up in regards to the substitutions for mirrored teams as far as co-op matches go, but they really done fucked up. Anyway, coming back to the issue at hand regarding the aircraft carriers themselves, the Hakuryu has, as I've already stated, noticeably been suffering, especially since some of the changes that were made with the 8.1 and 8.2 hotfixes. Now, the 8.1 hotfix was the biggest one, primarily because it actually meant her torpedo aircraft having to actually take time to prepare for attack strikes. So, yeah, that's one of those things that just kind of stands out to me in a big way just to start off with. And that's, I mean, okay, yeah, sure, her torpedoes do good damage when they hit, but they've removed a lot of the stuff that actually made her capable of handling herself in a actual combat situation. Especially one like I'm going to end up in this battle, which, oh boy, is this one going to give me a real nasty whoop. And you'll understand why once it actually starts happening. Now, I do start off attacking the destroyer, and this is actually one of the things that comes up with me in discussing the sorry, the 8.3 hotfix update, or 8.03 update that's coming in tomorrow. And that is the attack aircraft are now being nerfed. And this is a global nerf to the attack aircraft, I might add, where they now have a prep time where they're going into their attack units. So this is already increasing the amount of time aircraft carriers are going to have to devote to their their rocket attack strikes, for one thing. But the other thing is that the actual spotting distances from the air. Now, granted, this is something that I have mentioned as being needed as a potential change previously. Granted, that was also with the RTS style of combat in mind. For the current iteration, the rework aircraft carriers, that's no longer the case. In fact, I would argue that having the air spotting ranges of, like, destroyers or whatnot buffed in this regard, meaning they are visible at shorter ranges to aircraft. This is actually going to severely hurt aircraft carrier gameplay. Mainly because even in co-op matches, now co-op matches are one thing because bots they'll pop AA at you the moment you get within their maximum effective AA range. They're not players. If I were to go into a match with destroyers as an aircraft carrier after this update, I may as well not even consider trying going after destroyers. And let me tell you why. Even with the mechanics as they are in co-op matches, there are more than a few cases where if I do not have a destroyer that is surface spotted already, if I'm approaching a destroyer and I know that a destroyer is in a rough location, there have been a couple of times where I've almost been right on top of those destroyers, even in co-op matches, where I've almost been right on top of them before I even see them to initiate an attack. And now they're having their air detect range buffed in this regard. Foul. Really foul wargaming. I mean, this rework is supposed to help CVs, and yet everything that you're doing with them so far is doing nothing but hurting them as far as I can tell. Now, please ignore some of the issues I was having with this battle. For whatever reason, when I was trying to engage in chat, it kept windowing me instead of actually engaging in the group chat. So I was not actually able to interact and talk to my team and fly my planes at the same time, which was proving to be extremely annoying. Anyway, that aside, just had the issue with destroyers being spotted. And this is in response, I'll admit, and I can understand why, to destroyers being spotted and harassed right off the bat by aircraft carriers, where aircraft carriers will make a beeline for destroyers. But here's part of the problem. Wargaming has been so heavy with the Nerf bat post-CV rework that just about the only ships, as long as they're not clustered in to combat situations, that aircraft carriers really have any capability of handling are, in fact, the destroyers. And now they're nerfing the capabilities of an aircraft carrier to actually go after destroyers. So, now what? I don't know how to respond to this. I really don't. It's seriously like wargaming is basically saying, okay, yeah, we gave you your CV rework to make your CVs more engaging. Now you get all the fuck yous for everything that's changed because of it. That's seriously how this feels. And by the way, as anybody who's noticed, for this match, despite all of the work that I've tried doing, everything that I've tried to do in this match, I've only managed about 45, almost 50,000 damage for this match, but I've had to work for it. I've really had to work for it, and it wasn't even until the later stages of the match where I was able to do anything, because the enemy team, all those bots, YOLO'd into B. And they clustered up their AA so much that I could not get anywhere near any of the enemy ships, really, except for a single strike, unless I really wanted to lose all of my aircraft. Which, sorry Wargaming, for an aircraft carrier, this does not feel good. And I really hate the fact that that aircraft carriers have actually been reduced to this in this regard. Now, I can understand that clustering together for AA protection is a good thing both in randoms or whatever. And having the more AA that's there, yeah, an aircraft carrier should have to deal with it and respond to it. But at the same time, when they are clustered together and an aircraft carrier can do absolutely nothing, it makes me feel like, why am I even playing this ship? Why am I even in this match? Anyway, that aside, so let's see, air detection buffs for surface ships, preparation time for aircraft, for attack aircraft. Oh yeah, Midway torpedo nerfs. As I've already said, the only reason the torpedoes are even decent on the Midway in the first place is because of their damage. Now, keep this in mind. The Midway I've actually been doing decent battles with. I've actually been breaking even on my matches in the Midway. Special point on that, breaking even on my matches. I have not once broken even on any of my Hakuryu matches. Not once. My Midway matches, I've been breaking even. And yet, the Midway is the ship that they're nerfing. Honestly, I would think that the Hakuryu could use buffs rather than nerfs to the Midway. Maybe they actually need to decrease the arming time of the Japanese torpedo bombers so that the torpedoes can actually be gotten close enough and get onto target instead of taking away the damage of the US aircraft carrier. Maybe it's not that the Midway is overperforming. Maybe the problem is that the Hakuryu is underperforming. This is something that's actually driving me nuts. They're more like... It seems like Wargaming is more keen on using the Nerf bat than actually trying to help any of the ships that are having problems. And granted, some of these are problems that have been made by Wargaming themselves, because they've been so heavy with the Nerf bat. I would really love to see them actually give the CVs some buffs instead of nerfs for a change. First off, the way I see it, the CV rework to begin with is one huge fucking nerf to aircraft carriers to start off with. They wanted to make the aircraft carriers less powerful than they were in the RTS style. Okay, yeah, sure, they've succeeded at that. What have they done since then? Tell me that. What have they done? Every single update, every single hotfix so far, what has it done? Nerf the CVs. Every single fucking one. I am getting to the point... No. I'm not a CV main. I rarely played CVs even in the RTS style. And even with everything that's going on, even with some of the excitement, dare I say, of the current iteration, I still feel like the RTS style was better. And I will always be a proponent of the RTS style aircraft carriers. So that in mind, I will still always consider this rework to be one of the biggest nerfs ever made to the aircraft carriers. But I wish they'd stop nerfing the carriers. Stop nerfing them more and more and more. You've already taken away the vast majority of their capabilities with the rework. And now you're just limiting them more and more and more every single fucking change, every single patch. And by the way, I've noticed that, first off, in the 8.0 patch notes, they said that they were giving aircraft carriers battleship economy for their battles. I have yet to see that, because for matches where I've done 50,000 worth of damage in my Missouri, or 70,000 damage in my Montana, my earnings have been substantially better than any of these aircraft carrier matches. Anyway, on that note, I suppose I should let you all go. Otherwise I can rant on this all friggin' night. I really could. I have a clanmate who was a CV main before the rework, and he has retired his aircraft carrier fleet because he cannot get anywhere in his CVs anymore after the rework, just due to the AA changes and everything else that's already been done to them. As far as he is concerned, they are unplayable now. Anyway, on that bombshell, I'll let you all go. Happy hunting, take care, and I'll catch you all again next time.